One of the biggest problems currently with gaming is casualization. This is when a video game, usually a sequel or installment in a franchise, is released with features and mechanics that many gamers liked or found enjoyable, either removed, streamlined, or dumbed down. Maps that used to be huge with multiple paths will usually be streamlined to the point where they feel like a linear path, which is what happened with the Shock games. I mean, there's a picture that compares the maps of BioShock Infinite with BioShock System Shock 2 and the original System Shock, and I think it's a good metaphor for what happened with gaming. Role-playing games will frequently also have the leveling system streamlined so whoever's playing the game can just sit back and get kills without having to worry about complex mechanics like, leveling up and choosing which stat to level. I mean, look at what happened with certain other first-person shooter role-playing game-based franchises. And I have even seen game series go from distinct franchises to nothing more than a Me Too clone of whatever is selling. Now, why is this happening? Well, the answer is quite simple actually. Ever since around 2007 with the Nintendo Wii and Apple iPhone coming out, many people who have never touched a video game before have started playing games about on the same level as a Flash game. And at the same time, nearly every publisher wants to have that next big franchise that sells millions yearly. Now, to sell millions, they will usually take an established franchise, and in it they will try to make the safest, most mainstream game possible at the expense of everything that gamers enjoyed from previous installments. The Dead Space series is a very good example of this, as the game got progressively more linear and more action-based as opposed to the original's more survival horror focused. Another good example of this is Nintendo, and Nintendo's newer games have been a lot easier as Nintendo has tried to go for an even more mainstream audience than they have in the past. But I think perhaps the best way to see this trend in action, however, is to take a look at a game that just came out that suffers from it. Now, Fallout 4 is a role-playing game in the Fallout series, which has gone from being a well-known PC-only game into a household name ever since Bethesda bought the series from the failing developer Interplay. Now, with Fallout 3 and the Obsidian-developed New Vegas being top-selling games, it's no wonder Bethesda would make Fallout 4 for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. So let's take a look at it. Now first, Fallout 4 is a role-playing game for the next-gen systems only and the PC. Now please take a minute to think about this as you observe gameplay footage. Now this is from the Xbox One version, however the game looks relatively similar on the PC. The game starts you off in a house in Boston with your spouse, and this was heavily hyped in trailers. This is where you can create your character with a new face sculpting feature that is hard to use compared to the old slider system used in previous Fallout games. However, character customization and creation has been simplified. Skills which were present in every other Fallout game are gone, and perks return in a streamlined form that merges skills with perks. You can also now easily level up your special attributes, which was a lot harder to do in older Fallouts. In older Fallouts, when you created your character, you had to be sure you keyed in the right values and that you wanted them to be there, because for most of the game they were going to stay the same unless you found a rare upgrade that would increase them. However, with Fallout 4, these are now pointless as you can level up your special attributes freely, like it's Shin Megami Tensei. Oh, and if you're looking for a bit of a challenge, there is no more hardcore mode in Fallout 4 like there was in New Vegas, which made the game a lot harder by changing some of the core mechanics of the game to add some more realism. The premise of Fallout 4 is that your town is nuked and you have to get to the vault, which you were conveniently chosen to be in just a few minutes ago. Just like Fallout 3, the intro feels very drawn out compared to New Vegas, which simply asks you the questions and then let you go. Of course, just like every Fallout vault, there is a twist, and this time around, you're selected to be cryogenically frozen as part of an experiment without your knowledge. You wake up for a short period of time while you're in the vault to find out that some mysterious men are taking your baby and killed your spouse, which is the character you did not choose. And then you get frozen again until you find out that something serious happened in your vault. Not much is explained from the terminals or logs in the vaults from what I've played, besides something about mutiny and how they were never given the all-clear signal by Vault Tech. Oh, and besides your kid, you're also the only survivor of your whole vault. In fact, the writing for Fallout 4 is pretty mediocre, as the game is written by the same people who wrote the literary masterpiece of last generation, Fallout 3. You know, the game notorious for being about finding your daddy and with more plot holes in it than Swiss cheese. Fallout 4 is also about finding a family member, which is this time your son. The rest of the game consists of missions people give you, usually requiring you to go somewhere and kill some people or get some item. None of the characters are memorable, and neither is the voice protagonist you play as. It feels less like a Fallout game and more like an attempt to cash in on the Fallout name. But then again, Bethesda most likely cares more about if the game sells like Skyrim did, which sold 20 million copies, or about as much as a Call of Duty game. To make matters worse, dialogue choices have been crippled. While older Bethesda games and computer role-playing games offered a menu with the exact dialogue choice, with Fallout 4 Bethesda is clearly aiming for the mainstream audience, and now there's a dialogue wheel with face buttons, a voice protagonist, and subtitles off by default. Now, just like BioWare games, Fallout 4 offers several ways of responding. The A button on your controller is almost always a good response or saying yes. B is a bad response or saying no. X is either sarcastic or sometimes neutral, and Y is for asking a question. Remember in older Fallout games where you could choose a specific dialogue option which flat out said what the character was going to say? And this also eliminates some hilarious dialogue options present in older Fallout titles. For example, take a look how in Fallout 1 and 2 you could lower your character's intelligence and the game would play so much differently. While older Fallout games displayed skill check levels on the screen, Fallout 4 hides them behind colored buttons, masking the values in an attempt to emulate Mass Effect. Despite this, however, the game lacks any sort of karma or reputation system. For example, in New Vegas, doing a mission could boost your reputation among one group but lower it among another. And also it could raise your karma or drop it. I was able to shoot up some diner and managed to suffer no repercussions in one mission in Fallout 4. You can do anything you want in the game, or nearly anything you want, with few or no repercussions throughout the world, and while I won't spoil the ending here, it involves pressing one button or another on your Xbox controller, as in the end your choices do not even matter whatsoever. Now, the graphics of this game are absolutely terrible, looking like an early lifespan Xbox 360 game. On the Xbox One, I had stuttering, frame rate drops, and at least one pause in the gameplay. PC and PS4 gamers have also suffered from these same frame rate issues, and the game looks awful across all three platforms. Both consoles feature the game capped at cinematic 30 frames per second at 1080p. PC gamers have it even worse, as the game has absolutely insane system requirements. On the highest settings, one benchmark showed a GeForce GTX 980 Ti getting only around 60 frames a second at 1080p, and barely. PC gamers have also reported various performance issues, and the game is powered by NVIDIA GameWorks, which is a code word for this game will run like crap unless you buy a NVIDIA GPU thanks to Embrace Extend Extinguish. Now, on the consoles, the load times are also pretty long, which is something common on console versions of Bethesda games on older systems. This is most likely due to Bethesda using an old, outdated engine for Fallout 4. Similar to how Valve and Activision keep using the same old engine but upgraded, Bethesda is known for using their same old Gamebryo engine but upgraded, and they have been using this engine ever since Morrowind for their newest titles, and it shows. Gunplay is one major area, for example, which is affected by this. Now, ID Software, another ZeniMax developer, was called in to help improve the gunplay from how it felt in 3 and New Vegas. The problem is Bethesda decided to use their old, aging engine instead of moving up to, any other engine on the market, including the in-house ID Tech 5 engine. The art style is even worse in this game. The best looking part of the entire game has to be the intro section where you get to see your house in Boston before it's nuked, and it features graphics similar to the Black Ops 2 Nuketown map. Once it's nuked though, you end up in a giant wiped out wasteland despite being on the east coast of the USA. I mean, it says a lot when the west coast has a better variety of environments and a lot more to do in the map in the Fallout universe. The map is pretty tiny too, and you can go from one end of the map to another in just 11 minutes with barely any enemies. Similar to every other Bethesda 3D game, the game suffers from animation glitches, and when you play the game you'll see some here or there. AI will frequently run into walls and get stuck on objects just like they did in some other Bethesda games, and I've also noticed some glitches with subtitles. In at least one case, the subtitle did not match what was being shown on the screen as it got stuck. Lip syncing is also poor despite the game being a next-gen system, and sometimes the lips won't even move at all, sometimes they'll move in weird patterns. It's unpredictable. And thanks to the dated engine like I mentioned earlier, gunplay is absolutely terrible in this game. Despite the game adapting gameplay mechanics popular among modern shooters such as visual hit markers, aiming down sights, and sprinting, the game suffers from the same wonky aiming and hit detection and encourages you to use VATS, the system for aiming in older Fallouts. Unlike older Bethesda games though, where the VATS paused the game and allowed you to aim and shoot, VATS is now in slow motion, meaning you have less time to select targets in it, and thanks to sprinting, your AP meter is used up even more easily than it was earlier, meaning you can use VATS less and have to aim down sights more, which is clunky thanks to the broken engine. And it also doesn't help when bullets don't pass through huge, ginormous hitboxes of items, and sometimes your VATS percentage will be at around 0 because of these hitboxes. This also means you'll likely run into at least one invisible wall for no apparent reason. Your weapons no longer wear out from frequent usage, and you can also no longer repair or maintain your own weapons, despite the fact that killing a raider nearly always gives you yet another pistol, which is only good for selling to a store because you can no longer use it to repair another pistol. This is made worse by the fact that the game's pacing is flat out horrible, and early on in the game you can get laser weapons, a minigun, a shotgun, a dual barrel one a single shot rifle with quite a few shots, and those are just what I had in a few hours. But at the same time, despite Fallout's newfound loot shooter focus in an attempt to likely pander to fans of shooters with some role-playing elements and lots of item pickups such as Destiny, Borderlands, and maybe Mass Effect, it seems to lack some big features these kind of games have. For example, your screen does not turn red when you're about to die, and it pops up a dialog box instead, despite many of these games turning your screen red when you're about to die. It'll also tell you your health is low right before you're killed, with no time to react though, and this is made worse by the dialog box that pops up. Now, this is made worse by the fact that the game's difficulty is widely inconsistent. I've taken out various raiders armed with guns and armor, only to be killed by a bunch of dogs jumping on me, and from what I can tell, this game has level scaling too. I'm not sure if this is due to random spawning or just inconsistent difficulty in general though. It does however feature your own dogs similar to Call of Duty Ghosts, who can find items, that is if they don't stop in the middle of the map at nothing, and who can pin enemies down. AI also frequently charges you or stands and shoots, and that's it. There is no squad AI in this game whatsoever. All in all though, Fallout 4 is another overhyped, heavily marketed, casualized pile of garbage that you'll see on GameStop store TVs for a few weeks, and then you'll forget about it as you find it in the GameStop used bin alongside all sorts of other forgotten games. Now, while some of these problems are likely going to get fixed with patches, others are going to require some mods. Now, Bethesda games usually have a good track record with mods, and if you own the PC version, expect tons of mods for it. As long as Bethesda doesn't charge you money for them, send private investigators or legal teams after modders. Despite this, however, it shouldn't be up to the modders to fix what Bethesda couldn't put in. The game should ship with basic features other games in the series had day one. With many of the features missing, the game feels like a clone of games such as Borderlands or Destiny, except with far worse gunplay and a few Fallout elements such as special or VATS added in. At this point, it's no longer a role-playing game, it's now just another loot shooter with a dialogue wheel. Even then, it doesn't do anything new or different, and you might as well just go buy New Vegas. That's a much better game, and your choices actually matter in it. If you're really wanting Fallout 4, I'd wait until it's on a Steam sale or in a GameStop sale bin. At least then you can judge it for yourself once the hype filter is gone. And that's all that needs to be said about Fallout 4. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more.